Chapter 4. 7 Deadly Schemes. It's not just fear of damnation that keeps a person tied to a belief he has outgrown. The fear of what others think of us is another powerful influence. A teenager with Christian parents may worry about what they will think of him if he abandons his faith, or he may not be able to face breaking their hearts. Christian parents also need to look squarely at the way they manipulate their own children by the expectations they place on them and the emotional blackmail they unconsciously subject them to. For some Christian parents, the idea of their child using his own free thinking to form his unique individual view of life is out of the question. The child must be taught only Christian views and protected from hearing anything that calls them into question, for fear that he should damn his soul to hell. In other words, he must be indoctrinated instead of educated. When I abandoned Christianity, several close friends ostracized me from their lives. The retired pastor of the church I had attended angrily said, "You've trampled underfoot the Son of God," a reference to Hebrews chapter 10, verses 26 to 31, a passage condemning those who return to their sin after having known the truth. My great sin was daring to have a metaphysical difference of opinion, and this was enough to transform me into the enemy of God. I was stunned as I watched a warm friendship of almost 2 decades disintegrate in the space of a few minutes. He told me he could not accept me in his home any longer because I was now under discipline by the church, whatever that meant. His wife burst out crying because of my decision, but agreed with her husband that I was no longer welcome. These people were almost like a second family to me at one point in my life, so I know what it's like to pay a high price for sticking to your convictions. Another friend calmly told me that because I had spoken against Christianity, the friendship was over. "May God have mercy on you," were his final words. He took offense because, in his view, I was mocking his God. From my perspective, I did no such thing. I cannot mock someone I don't believe exists. This is how people react when they allow their view of life to become so sacred that they feel they should deny anyone else the right to call it into question. Furthermore, when a person chooses to view something as sacred, this attaches a reverence, a holy respect to the belief that emotionally restricts the holder from ever questioning it himself. Christianity has all exits covered. I listened to another Christian friend label me as arrogant and accuse me of lying with angry outbursts and snide remarks. His expression of spirituality appeared anything but spiritual. What I was seeing was a dear friend determined to poison his life with bitterness. At an unconscious level, it was also emotional blackmail, the holding of a friendship to ransom unless the other party agrees to submit. Losing friends was hard, but when I abandoned Christianity, it felt like I had taken a broom and swept a big ball of dirt out of my mind. It was a breath of fresh air to finally take responsibility for my own thoughts and actions, instead of continually looking outside of myself for something else to tell me what to do. I have no malicious agenda against Christianity. All I'm interested in is letting the truth speak for itself. If I honestly thought Christianity were true, I would be first in line to dedicate my life to Christ. But apparently I'm going to end up in hell because I'm too stupid to see the truth. Hypothetically, if I were to die and find myself face to face with a God who is going to judge me, what would I say in defense for the blasphemy that I've written here? I did what I thought was right, which is all any of us can do. I will not be as bold as to condemn all religion outright, nor even to slam Christianity in its entirety. There is value in studying religion because religion is essentially man reaching out to something beyond the world of his senses, which tends to be labelled God. That is a noble quest, and it's the very same preoccupation of this book. Things only go wrong when religion is turned backwards and asserted as God reaching out to man. Then come claims of divinely inspired texts and divinely instituted human authorities. Religion becomes a dictatorship rather than a source of useful, if imperfect, knowledge. Unfortunately, this reversed approach constitutes the vast portion of organized religion in the West. Authoritarian religion narrows your vision into a sharp focus by dictating truth and denying you the right to think anything contrary. Once you commit yourself to looking at life through that tunnel, you lose any ability to see outside of those confines. And outside might be where the real truth lies, but you'll never know unless you let yourself look. The whole manipulation game is so plain to me. When you finally see the bars on the cage you've been living in, you can't unsee them. Based on my own experience of Christianity and my observation of it in the lives of others, I've come up with the following list of coercion tactics regularly employed by believers. 1. Implant the desired belief system in others from as young an age as possible, long before they are able to think critically. 2. Exploit the tendency of people to follow the herd. Surround them with like minds and encourage uniformity of thought. 3. Protect people from access to dangerous information that challenges the belief system, lest the hearers should be swayed and damn their souls. 4. Declare the belief system to be sacred, thus protecting it from examination and the potential of criticism. To think freely and depart from orthodoxy is to commit heresy. 5. Terrify unbelievers using threats of judgment so that they will bend to your wishes. Encourage them to act immediately rather than taking time to weigh the evidence. 6. Indulge in emotional blackmail to ensure that your loved ones don't choose a different path. Let them be aware that it would break your heart if they went their own way. 7. When loved ones reject your belief system, bully them back into submission with insults, accusations, and threats of ostracism. The perpetrators of all these tactics are rarely aware of the manipulative aspects of their actions. Those who act in these ways are not bad people. They are themselves victims of brainwashing. If they became aware of the harm they were doing, they would cease. Some are partially aware. This is why one Christian might shout, "Turn or burn," to everyone in sight, while another might seek to first learn what his opponent believes, then attempt to reason with him. My complaint is not that all Christians are guilty of all 7 coercion tactics. This is clearly not the case. My complaint is that I never have to look very far in organized religion to see these mind games happily and blindly employed in the ongoing manipulation of humanity. To those on the receiving end of these attempts at mind control, I suggest the following antidotes, point for point. 1. Take no opinion of another on blind trust, but start asking questions from as young an age as possible. 2. Resist your tendency to follow the herd, since the world is full of diverse herds, each one contradicting the others and clamoring for followers. Do your own individual thinking instead. 3. Seek out challenging information, because it holds the potential of exposing your errors, thus guiding you to greater truth. 4. View no assertions as sacred. It is only through criticism that we can discern truth from error. 5. Fear no claims without evidence. 6. Do what you think is right, even when it causes distress to yourself and others. Giving in to emotional blackmail means handing over control of your life to someone you think is wrong. 7. Don't give in to bullies, or you will spend your life being a victim. I must clarify that the above points are addressed primarily to adult readers. I will add one important caveat for those living under the care of their parents. Children and teenagers cannot always afford to be quite as bold as adults. Be careful about telling your Christian parents that you're not a believer. Your mother and father may be entirely reasonable people, or they may not. Use your own judgment here. There is no value in causing your parents unnecessary emotional distress, or in provoking friction in your relationship, or in getting yourself kicked out of your own home. The latter is a rarity, but it has been known to happen. I can afford to weather the storm of broken relationships because I'm an independent adult. But to young people I would advise, there is no need to turn your life upside down purely on principle. You may feel the urge to stand up for what you believe. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm only saying it may be pragmatic to bide your time. Christian apologists like to present Christianity as a reasonable faith, one that is based first and foremost on an allegedly firm historical record of God's dealings with mankind. They live in a bubble of intellectual fantasy that is utterly divorced from the reality of the Christian life in the real world. They like to think that the common man rejects Christ purely out of pride and attachment to sin. The reality is that most people, whether Christian or not, have little knowledge of the historical case for Christianity. Prideful rebellion is unavoidably woven with superstitious fears of an unproven threat. In the absence of reliable facts, the dilemma of accepting or rejecting the gospel is more a matter of psychological warfare against subtle forms of coercion. Christians, by and large, fall far short of the mark of expressing a reasonable faith. Often unable to offer a rational defense of their religion, they are certainly not using reason when they seek to convert others. Christian intellectuals need to raise their eyes from the apologetics books, emerge from their colleges, and take a hard look at the real manner in which their religion is advanced in the world en masse, and stop indulging in this false ideal of Christianity's intellectual superiority, because it's nowhere to be found in practice. Over the years, I have debated with hundreds of Christians on the internet, and a productive discussion with a rational Christian is the exception rather than the rule. Of course, a statistical observation about bad Christian behaviour does not make Christianity false. I could rant about fire and brimstone fundamentalist preachers, televangelist swindlers, fraudulent faith healers, and paedophile priests. All of that may raise concerns over whether Christianity can truly live up to its claim that it changes lives for the better. But I'm not a fan of ad hominem arguments. Christianity ultimately stands or falls on whether its claims reflect reality as we find it. I will state my case on that issue in subsequent chapters. My aim, presently, is to raise awareness of the mind games that are employed in the field of religion, where our natural weaknesses are exploited in order to manipulate us. Overcoming such weaknesses is vital in the pursuit of truth.